Hi there. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. This is a spoiler review. My initial thoughts on the Stranger Things series finale, aka Stranger Things Season 5, Episode 8. I'm recording this, by the way, on very early hours of Tuesday, January 6th, excuse me. And I did have a chance to see, I watched this finale the first time on December 31st on New Year's Eve, and then on New Year's Day I saw it at my local multiplex. Incidentally, I had a very enthusiastic audience. The theater was pretty close to full. It probably was about 95% full, if I were to guess. And I think people had a lot of good reactions. I think reactions that the Duffer Brothers and everybody else involved in this show would want people to have in the theaters. There was a nice young lady next to me who was kind of curling up, trying not to look at the screen during some of the scarier parts of the final battle. And then I darted my eyes around as we got into what effectively was the 1 hour epilogue after the final battle and the finale battle, as it is, because you can still go watch it anytime. And I saw a lot of teary faces, including my own, admittedly. First impressions, it brings a lot of emotions out. So as I mentioned, the first hour, basically, it's a 2 hour, 8-minute finale, I believe, and the first hour comprises the grand finale, the final battle against Vecna and the Mind Flayer. Whereas the second hour, basically an extended epilogue, that ties up loose ends and gives you a nice closure to all the characters that we've come to love over these past 5 seasons and 9 years, almost 10 years. So the series, as you might have known, as you might have seen, of course, ends. By the way, before I get into this, all these thoughts are pretty much just things I jotted down on December 31st, and on January 1st, January 2nd. I haven't done too much else since then. And I've refrained from watching other people's reaction video or breakdown videos of the finale because I don't want anybody else's thoughts to taint mine. So there you have it. As we know, the series ends in a bittersweet way. Bitter because seemingly Elle has died by sacrificing herself during the explosion of the Upside Down. But sweet in the sense that we get a lot of nice wrapping up of storylines and of character arcs. And getting a sense of where characters are going next. So that was nice. But getting back to the delivered part. By the way, this review is by no means comprehensive. These are just thoughts I had in these first few days after I saw the finale twice. So Elle's fate is left deliberately vague. We seem to think that she has died in that explosion in the Upside Down. But then later, of course, we come to find out in that final scene that maybe she didn't. As Mike recounts it, he adds to the story of Dungeons and Dragons that they're doing, where you see Elle go to the beautiful land. I don't know, it looks like it could be Norway or Iceland, perhaps. And there are 2 waterfalls falling. He had mentioned that the 2 of them could escape to someplace with 3 waterfalls. But maybe I missed a waterfall. Maybe, is that a clue, perhaps, to maybe that she... this is not a real thing, in fact, that it's just maybe something that Mike wants to believe. But if this story is to believe, maybe Elle did, in fact, escape to this beautiful landscape, wherever it was with the waterfalls. And it's sad to think that, if she did survive, that she can never see her friends again for fear that the bad people would try to come after her and use her powers. Take her blood and use her powers again to try to make more like her and like Vecna had been. So, but on the flip side of that, if she did in fact die, it was a very noble death, and knowing she was preventing any future and bad people using her blood for bad stuff, and that her friends can appreciate what she did for them and did for the world through that sacrifice. But questions remain. Did she really manage to sneak out? Or is that just how Mike preferred to think of her? Or is that something that Elle, an idea, through her, I guess, telepathy, implant in Mike's head to make him, just as an act of kindness, to make him think, oh, she really didn't die. She's out there in the world somewhere, even though, unfortunately, they can never see each other again. That's pretty sad. Or maybe they can. Maybe they do it covertly. And by the way, if Mike knew that, if he knew that she were still alive, as he seems to imply during that storytelling moment in the final scene in the Wheeler basement while they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. If he knew that fact for 18 months that she perhaps was alive, why did he not tell anybody else that? So I don't know if that's something that the Duffers might have considered as a a loose end, perhaps. I mean, they kept this whole ending very vague anyway for the viewer to decide. Did Ellett nobly sacrifice herself, or did she in fact escape and she's out there in the world somewhere living a life that is bittersweet for her because she is finally getting a nice quiet life that she had always wanted, but she doesn't get to live that life with Mike and all of her other friends from Hawkins. That's sad to think that she wouldn't get to see Joyce or Hopper or any of her other friends again. So incidentally, the last image we see, if you stay during the closing credits, is this. I managed to snap this photo in the theater on New Year's Day. Is that? Can you see that? I don't know how well it's turning out in the theater, but there are the people, and there's the screen. But it's the Stranger Things, the Stranger Things Player's Manual Fantasy Role-Playing Game. So is that a little plot twist? Courtesy of the Duffer Brothers, telling us that this was just all one big game, and there was never this story of these young kids and this one kid who had these powers, and it was in fact, I guess, kind of seen through the lens of the people who might be taking part in this or reading the Stranger Things manual. That's another interesting closing ponderable of this series. I don't know. Let's see. Now we'll get into some, just one small gripe. I mean, there's no such thing as the perfect show. I mean, overall, I would give my rating of this series, I would give it like an 8 out of 10. Not the series, but the series finale, an 8 out of 10. The whole series, I'd probably give it a 9. Because I really enjoyed it. I didn't really get into it until 2022 when season 4 was out, and I just binged everything up to that point. But my one gripe about season 5, I felt that Linda Hamilton's character, Dr. K, was a little underdeveloped. Maybe that is to be expected when you bring in a new character in the final season. But I would have wanted to know a little bit more about her background. I mean, I guess she was meant to be kind of a replacement for Papa, whatever his real name was, the guy who worked in the lab and helped Elle develop her powers. But I wish I'd known a little bit more about Linda Hamilton's, Dr. K's background in this. Both episodes 7 and 8 really had me tearing up. In episode 7 in particular, that's that really tender moment between Steve and Dustin, when they embraced each other, when they really got emotional, and it became like a catharsis, I think, for both of them, but especially for Dustin. You see how much and how eagerly he was starting to hug Steve when he said, "I just don't want to lose another friend of mine, another close friend," and his best friend, as it turns out. But and it all came to that fight that they had earlier. It came to blows when Steve was, I guess, in Dustin's eyes, sort of speaking ill of Eddie. And we would have liked to see Eddie come back in some way, but that did not happen. And then, of course, there was that wonderful moment between Nancy and Jonathan when they thought they were going to die, with all that oozy, melty stuff related to that dark matter, whatever it was, swirling around in the lab, in the Upside Down, or over the lab. And then I got kind of teary-eyed when Joyce said, "You better, you effed with the wrong family." Which was a callback to her busting through the wall of her house in season 1 to get into the Upside Down. I think that was the context of that. And then, of course, that was in episode 8, of course, before they finally finish off Vecna. Apologies here. This is raw recording here. You're about to hear a train. I'm very close to... There you go. Train tracks there. And then we have that moment of Elle and Mike together, I guess, in Elle's mind space, just before she's about to sacrifice herself. And, they teared up, they got emotional, and I did too. I had to, do this a little bit with my hands, wiping my tears away. And I saw other people in the theater doing that too. So I know I wasn't the only one impacted by that. And then, of course, the wonderful scene of Hopper proposing to Joyce in the restaurant, whatever that restaurant was called. Could kind of see maybe that was coming. marriage proposal, and I could see they're wanting to get out of, and most people wanting to get out of Hopkins after all they had been through for 5 years and 5 seasons. And then, of course, the final scene of all the kids now grown up in the Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, in the Wheeler basement, playing that final round of Dungeons and Dragons, and then they all put their binders back. And you see all them getting emotional, and I got emotional, and I think I heard a sob or two during that scene. So that was really wonderful. So well done. Nice way to wrap up. It was cool to see, the rooftop scene with all the slightly older kids, and then before you got to, and then the Joyce and Hopper, and then the scene of all the kids in the basement. So that was really nice. So well done. I think it wrapped things up pretty well. And then I must say, overall, looking at all 5 seasons, Stranger Things has to be one of my favorites. TV or film soundtracks of all times, because there was the nostalgia factor for me. I'm an 80s kid and a 90s kid. I was born in the 70s, but I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so I have a particular liking for 80s music. And the Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein really came up with a wonderful, recognizable theme song. Of course, everybody knows that, and how you see the words of Stranger Things kind of zoomed out a little bit, and then it finally comes back in. That was, of course, that's a cool sequence. But then you have all the wonderful music that they created for this, and I think music can really make or break a show or a movie, and it really made it for me throughout the series. So that was really cool. There, both Dixon's and Stein's score and the Duffer Brothers music selections that they made throughout all 5 seasons were really part of the show's connective tissue. I mean, you got Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash in season 1, and then you got Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill in season 4, and then I guess you got a couple of Prince songs in season 5. Nothing really comes to mind immediately as standout tunes in seasons 2 or 3. In terms of original 80s music, I mean, season 3, I think of like Starcourt. That's probably my favorite song of the whole series, because it's just it's nostalgic and hopeful and upbeat at the same time. Maybe I'll do a separate video about that. And then I did have a few lingering questions at the end of all this. Nothing I'm griping about, because I love the series. I did not do like a pre-watch and a rewatch of all seasons 1 through 4 before I saw this. I may go rewatch the whole series at some point, but I'm still kind of marinating in this, and I'm having a little Stranger Things withdrawal, as I'm sure many people are at this point. So I would look forward to doing that at some point. But a few little gripes. I kind of wonder why we did not see the Mind Flayer again in its smoke form. Of course, in its big spidery, horrible, scary form. That was pretty amazing to see that final reveal after 9 years of culmination. But what happened to the smoke form of that? Was that just smoke, like fog, kind of dream type stuff that would have been associated more with Mike thinking of it, or not Mike? I mean Will thinking of it. Although when young Henry Creel opened the suitcase in episode 7, I guess it was, before it was fully revealed in episode 8, and you saw a little bit of steam come out. Maybe that was, and then you saw like the piece of coal that was glowing, and it became, that then infused itself with Henry Creel at that point and gave him his powers. Maybe that was the smoky aspect of the Mind Flayer. And then what happened to Vicky? She seemingly vanished after the battle aspect. I think there might have been some suggestion of her by Robin, Maya Hawke's character, when they're all having that rooftop hangout, and she talks about love life to some degree. I don't remember. It would have been nice to see her again. And then let's see, a few other people too. Who else am I missing? Yeah, and there was no time travel. I think I'd seen some speculation videos, like maybe there'll be some time travel to just reset everything, sort of like the time heist in Avengers Endgame, and that we would see Bob Newby, Sean Astin's character again, or Eddie, of course, or Barb, poor Barb, which she never got justice, or Chrissy, and whoever else I'm forgetting. So that didn't happen. I guess it was smart. The Duffers wanted some seriousness to this, I guess, to show that those unfortunate souls were gone. So even though our core players did survive it, not everybody did, well, in this case. And one thing I would ask now, why did the Mind Flayer want to take over the Earth in the first place? I mean, is it because the Mind Flayer was just the bad guy? I mean, I don't know. I mean, every story has to have an antagonist, and of course the Mind Flayer and Vecna were the antagonists. I mean, Mind Flayer was the main one. But I never got an explanation why, in fact, did he want to take over the Earth and merge Dimension X, or the Abyss, as it was eventually called, with Earth. And why do you want to do that? I guess just because he's the bad guy. I don't know. Maybe we'll get an explanation about that. So thank you. This is a long-winded, speaking to you, no special graphics, spoiler review of my thoughts of Stranger Things at the end of it all. Excuse me. So I enjoyed it very much. I'd give the whole series 1 through 5 a 9 out of 10, and I would give season 5 probably an 8 out of 10. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you for staying with me this long if you did. And as I get better and more concise in my reviews, I'll try to do that and add some graphics. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments section, and I'll see you in another video.